In this age of rapid technological change, how can technological professionals or technocrats be able to excel and distinguish themselves?
Correct. I think technology professionals or otherwise, now is the time, because globalization is happening at such a rapid pace, that now is the time that anybody and everybody, they have to distinguish themselves. Because if you are a commodity person, then suddenly the value just drops rapidly, because so much of resources are available.
I'm showing your book, by the way.
Oh,
this is all discussed in your book, and we're going to go.
Yes, I talk about 9 ways that people distinguish themselves in the book, and I have about 183 more ways on my blog.
Wow! So actually, why don't we could jump into this, because in the 9 ways that you talk about, you brought along a graphic that we can show the audience as well, about winning at the inner game and winning at the outer game. So. And these are all in the book, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you talk about winning at the inner game, and these are all begin with an L. It's amazing you were able to do this. The first one is learn.
Yes, and I have to tell you why they all begin with the L, because the original title of the book was called The L Revolution.
Revolution.
And I was having lunch with my mentor, Tim Sanders, who wrote the book Love is the Killer App. And then he was telling me, Raj, my new book is coming out, it's called The L Factor. And it's coming out next week, so you better change the name of your book. But by that time, I had all the 9 L's.
But they're good L's.
Yes.
So the first one at winning at the inner game is learn.
Yes. Learn is, we all know that learning never stops. And the fastest way you can destroy your career is when you stop learning. And the reason for that is that whenever you finish your schooling, whatever you learned from there, you can only succeed in history with it, because the time the curriculum was developed, that all the theories and everything that they came up with was good for that part of the time. So obviously, there is nothing that has been written that will say, today, if you want to succeed, what should you do? Because by the time it gets into the curriculum, it's already history.
They can read your blog, right? They can find out what happens today.
The blogs are important because it's real time. So blogs, the right magazines, and having good mentors and coaches, that's where they can make a difference.
And you say laugh, the second key to winning at the inner game.
Yeah, laugh. The only thing that I can say about laugh is that most of the time people are so self-conscious that they are always thinking that what is Steve thinking about it? Oh, did I laugh right? Am I dressed properly? But they forget that everybody has their own problems to deal with, and they are not just like using surgical precision to analyze everything is happening on that person. So just being yourself and being comfortable with yourself, and ability to laugh at oneself is a key skill, because if you are comfortable with yourself, you can almost be sure that the other person will be comfortable with yourself.
Okay. Leave a lasting impression.
Yeah, I always ask this question, Steve, that you had so many teachers in your life, from your kindergarten to your doctorate and everything. So how many teachers can you remember? And probably not a lot of them. Handful of them, and some of them for good reasons and some of them for not so good reasons, right? So if I say, how many of you do you remember for very good reasons, you will say very few, and those were the people that have left a lasting impression in you. And same way with your career, if I go back and say you worked for many bosses, and for those bosses many people worked for them, and if I say, how many of them will remember you, Steve, then if the number is a lot, all the bosses remember me, then you have left a lasting impression.
Or could also be clients?
Clients, or your business partners, or everyone. Sometimes people don't have long-term memory. So it's easy to, because they have so many things coming on, and then it's easy to get ourselves erased from people's memory. And only if you can care enough for their cause can we leave a lasting impression.
Say that last part again.
If
I
only,
thought that was wonderful. Say
yes,
it again.
Basically, only if you care enough for the cause of other people can you leave a lasting impression in them.
Beautiful. Look.
Yeah. So most of the time when a task is given or when you are working on a project or everything is defined. But only some people will look beyond what is their what they have to do for their task. And if there is something, it can be as simple as something needs to be done, there is a gap that is filled, because in organizational charts there are blocks, but there are gaps between those blocks. Mm-hmm. When something falls between the two boxes, somebody has to pick that up. Somebody has to look and say, I don't know whether it falls in finance or HR, but I don't know, both of them may be thinking it falls in finance. Finance guy may be thinking it falls in HR, but it's there in the gap. And if you can just pick it up and say,
Okay, and love.
Yeah, so love is interesting because what happens is many times people think that, if I eliminate all problems in my life, I will be very happy. And I always tell people, just imagine for a second that every single problem is finished. There is no problem. What would you do? I mean, you will be bored to death. Right, because you can't live, and people need those problems, but they can't live with those problems, and they always complain that this is a problem. In fact, they are looking for problems. When they say, give me a job, give me a promotion, they are looking for different problems. But as soon as they get into the job, they will say, oh, this is not right, that is not right. And my thinking is, if you want to truly succeed, you have to love what you are doing, plus you have to do what is required. Sometimes it's small things here and there. You can't complain. You just have to love it and do it.
Okay. And the second graphic we're going to show is winning at the outer game. The first one is leverage.
Yes.
Another L.
Yes. Leverage is, if there is only one thing that people take away from this, this will be leverage, because we have ultimate scarcity in people's lives is time. Everybody has only 24 hours a day. But many people get a lot done in those 24 hours. Why is that some people can get a lot done, and why is that some people can get only a few things done and still running around? So the question that people ask themselves is, how can I get this done? The moment they ask that question, then they become the only resource. How can I get this done? Suppose we change the question a little bit, and it's a little bit long, so I'll speak slowly. What is the right configuration of available resources to accomplish this task in the most optimum fashion? I'll say it again. What is the right configuration of available resources to accomplish this task in the most optimum fashion? The moment you ask this question, then you will start looking for resources. It can be books, it can be friends, alumni members, it can be your coaches, it can be your boss, current boss, previous boss, your colleagues, or anything. You start looking for resources in the right configuration to get this task done.
Okay. You say likability.
Yeah, and I have been talking about likability for a long time, and I say, would likability make a difference? If somebody is more likable, can they get things done quickly? And people say, probably. Or I ask the question in a different fashion and say, if somebody is not likable, would it be a little bit hard for them to get things done? People say, maybe. And I say, if that is true, then in the last 12 months, what have you done to increase your likability factor? Mm-hmm. People always say, oh, that's too touchy-feely, Raj, and I don't know. And many people think that if they are smart, they are likable. And we all know that it is so not true. And they just don't get it. And
okay. You say to listen.
Yeah. Listen, this is something that has been written about a lot, and so I'll give two things that I think that people should look at when they are listening. First is they have to learn to listen to themselves. Forget about everything else, because whatever I am saying, as of now, the audience that are looking at it, they are repeating themselves, but in their own way. They are saying, Raj, I don't agree with you. Maybe not for me, or they say that may be true in his country, or it is not true. They are listening to themselves. If they just watch it, and is it helping them or is it hurting them? Second thing that I will say about listening is, whenever you meet someone, everybody has a story. You just have to be curious enough, and you should know how to ask those questions so that the story comes out. Then you get closer.
Okay, and then the last one on winning the outer game is lead.
Yes. Lead is
I
another
don't think you meant lead, so it's lead.
Yeah. Lead is another thing that has been written about a lot. Leadership is not tied to position and all those things. But my simple things that I want to say is, leadership is as simple as filling in the blanks. That whenever you see something, there is always opportunities to grow and lead. You don't need permission to, whenever you are filling in a blank, then you don't need permission, because organizations are looking at someone to pick this up and run with it. And you have those opportunities.
Okay. We're running a little low on time, but I wanted you to at least say something about keeping promises to yourself, because I know you said that was important.
Yes. So many times people say, if there is only one thing that I can take away from, what is it? I say, learn to keep promises that you make to yourself. That's because whenever you make a promise to your boss or your wife or your husband or anyone, then somebody is watching it and say, hey, suppose you make a promise to me and you didn't fulfill. I'll say, Steve, but you told me you will do this. But when you make a promise to yourself and say, next year I'm going to read 1 book a week, 52 weeks, and then 3 months later you only read 1 book, and then nobody knows about it. So you will say, you know what? You will not say, oh, I made a mistake. You will say, you don't know what's going on in my life. Anybody in my shoes, they could not have done it, kind of thing. So it's easy to justify yourself and get away with it. So once you start learning to keep promises to yourself, phenomenal things will happen because you become more accountable.
That's amazing. Yeah, yes. I think it's like making even appointments with yourself, right?
Yes.
I'm between 9 and 10 next week, I'm going to do such and such,
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Well, listen, I had many more questions for you,
yes.
But I think the audience will be well served to read your book and the blog, and we'll have to have you back to talk about angel funding and many other things. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. And thank you for watching You're Hired. If you have any questions about this show or suggestions or questions about jobs and careers, feel free to email me at steve@bayareacareercoach.com. That's steve@bayareacareercoach.com. And do check out the website for the 12 keys to getting a great job, signing up for the career newsletter, all the information about coaching, and also you can access anybody who's ever been on the show. So you can check out Raj's blog or ask him a question. I'm sure he'd be okay with that, right?
Sure, definitely.
That's all at www.bayareacareercoach.com. Again, it's www.bayareacareercoach.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time on You're Hired. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Most welcome.
I wanted to ask you about angel funding, but I think that will just have to stay with the rest of the angels right for now. A couple of the things you said, I'm glad you repeated, and I asked you to repeat it because I thought it was so moving and profound that I just